It takes more than carrots to shoot straight. We meet the coach who says half of all shotgun shooters might as well be shooting with their eyes closed.
Anybody out there today that shoots with an eye closed, okay, is guessing.
Plus, you won't like him when he's angry. Olympic gold medalist Pete Wilson puts the boot in about double trap and the future of shooting sports. Talking of boots, we have more of Gilly's summer gundog boot camp. Welcome to Fieldsports Britain.
If you do that, you can't read distance or speed. So anybody out there today that shoots with an eye closed, okay, is guessing. Now, if they're very low, slow things, you can guess up to a point. It's when they start going at different places, different speeds, different heights, different distances, you've had it, you have had it.
Millions are spent every year by people learning to shoot. According to instructor Nick Penn, 50% of them are wasting their money. Why? Because they're being taught to close one eye. And that's just the start of it. According to Nick, eye dominance is a mere sideshow.
I'm afraid there's still this myth about left eye, right eye dominance and this, that and the other. It doesn't mean a thing.
Nick has 5 steps to shooting heaven. We will hear a little bit about them today, but just in case you don't believe his preaching, we have a couple of his students who have seen the light and, as Nick would impress, the target.
I mean, I've had people phone their wives to drive them home because mentally they're in a completely different planet.
And miss it in front.
Kevin is a retired firefighter who started shooting 7 months ago. And we have Andrew, who took up the sport 6 months ago. And finally we have Maddie, a complete novice but very willing volunteer. Her father, Carl, supplies the school with its Berettas, but is also a Nick convert. He wants Maddie to get into some good shooting habits.
We're so focused on getting our head down on the stock and seeing the rib and all of that, but the method makes complete sense.
First of all, God gave you lots of different bits and pieces, right? And one of the things he gave you was a computer. But probably not that many people understand how good it is, and a lot of people don't use it to its full potential. So you're looking at that bird going through the sky, and because you're looking at it with both eyes open, you are sending a message into the computer. Goes in, little Irishman gets this message, plugs it into the computer whirs round, works out distance and speed instantly, goes back to the little Irishman, tells him the answer, and basically if you pull the trigger when it feels good, i.e. when he tells you, you will never ever miss another clay. It's the only sport in the world, in my opinion, that hasn't been explored properly. I honestly believe that. I believe that every other sport has been explored. Golf, tennis, all these other sports, they've gone into it with a fine-tooth comb and they've got the technique, and pretty much the technique to all these sports is very much the same, maybe explained slightly differently, but the wrists are cocked at the right time, the angle of the club, etc., etc. But with shooting, no one has ever come out with a proper explanation as to how it works. And this is how it works.
Because shooting can be a frustrating sport, we sometimes look for salvation in the strangest of places. Some may be better than others.
So I'm walking around with a straw down the barrel and a patch on one eye. It didn't look really good. So that's all gone. That has all gone. In fact, I don't have a barrel on my gun anymore. You don't look at the barrel, you don't look at the bead, you don't look at the lead, you look at the bird. That is what, and I've instilled it, and it works.
And it's a big leap of faith to think that your eyes can tell you where the shot needs to go without using the barrel as a reference point. It is very difficult, and then you have to trust it and believe it. Have some more. Of course, the other thing is, There are lots of reasons that if you take a straight bird, for instance, which is the one that you have to open eyes up on, because if you shoot with an eye shut, when you come up behind a bird, you blot it out before you pull the trigger, so you can't see what you're shooting at. And that will ring true with a lot of people. They'll say, well, I come up behind it, and once I can't see it anymore, I pull the trigger. So technically, you're shooting in the dark. Of course, with your eyes wide open, the barrel of the gun becomes a grey, transparent blur. So once you pass a bird coming towards you, it doesn't matter how far in front you need to go, you never lose sight of the bird.
But every now and again, the human being takes over and fires where he wants to, and that's when we miss.
At my club, I think there's 60 club members, and out of those, some of the things that I've been told, you know, just you wouldn't believe. I mean, the guy that actually got me into shooting, he is left-handed, got told he was so eye dominant that he had to swap over, so he shoots right-handed now. Now that took him over a year to even be hitting anything. I've had putting tape over your glasses, or one person put Vaseline, smeared Vaseline, so you can still see the light coming through your glasses, but obviously it sort of dulls everything down. Sticky tapes on your eye, little dots, and when you get so many people telling you different things, it just becomes so confusing.
Now, this is something which you would have thought in 2017 they would have worked out by now. The people that teach people to shoot would have worked out by now. When somebody goes for their first lesson, they normally get given a driven bird, and when they get this driven bird, quite often people miss to the left. Now, why do they miss to the left? The instructor says, oh, you've got a left master eye, and you go, oh, have I? What does that mean? And he says, well, you shoot off the right shoulder, this is the strong eye, and it draws you over, and it makes you miss up the left-hand side. Well, shall I explain to you why you miss up the left-hand side? It's very, very simple. Okay, if you mount the gun in the middle of your body and swing up, the gun goes dead straight, and the reason it goes dead straight is because you've got half your body pulling that way, half your body pulling that way, one cancels out the other, and the gun goes dead straight. But if you shoot from there, it hurts. So we shoot from here or here, and in your case, here. Now then, when you swing up now, when you get to about there, that's at the point when your body starts to stretch, and you've got all this body pulling that way, and nothing pulling that way. So if I face this way, as I go up, look, the higher I go, the more I drag. If I'm left-shouldered, the higher I go, the more I drag. Now, that's common sense, isn't it? Yeah. But nobody's ever told you it, okay? Never. Now, for the last 100 years, when people shoot an overhead bird and they go off to the left, it's because they drag. It's got nothing to do with the eyes, okay?
As well as wanting to watch Maddie being put through her paces, Carl has also brought along some new Beretta models for Nick to try out at the school. The 690 Grade 1 is the next step up from the very popular Silver Pigeon and is being shot by Kevin. Maddie has been shooting one of the Victoria ladies' guns, new to the Beretta range for 2017.
We launched the 690 Grade 1 last year. It's available in 12-20 gauge and a sporting version as well. It's the latest incarnation in the 690 series. It sits between the Silver Pigeon and just below the 690 Grade 3, which is a game scene with nicer wood, so it bridges that gap.
You've been shooting that today?
I have, yeah.
Shooting it well?
Absolutely. It's always the shooter that misses.
The Victoria has been designed by ladies for the lady shooter, so they're not having to work with an ill-fitting chunk of timber and metal likely to deter, not inspire.
When you go on the road, when you visit the game fair, you hear so many ladies who are struggling really. They don't understand why they're finding it so difficult. Eye dominance is one thing that crops up again and again, and today we've talked about that. But also gun fit. They are not comfortable with a stock that perhaps fits their husband or their boyfriend, and there's a simple reason for that. Their physique is slightly different. The stock has been made specifically for ladies, designed by ladies, has a semi-Monte Carlo stock, as you can see, has a reduced radius to the grip. A lot of ladies obviously have a small hand, and therefore this reduced radius helps them to reach the trigger comfortably. The Monte Carlo just brings the stock up towards the face, so that for ladies, particularly those with a long neck, it's more comfortable. They haven't got to bend their neck across. and slightly shorter, 14 inches, 36 centimetres long, with a variety of pads, so that for the taller ladies we can go out to about 14.5 and under 14 inches for shorter ladies. So I think it covers a lot of bases.
The only thing that will stop this gun dragging left is this arm. Now, there's the clay coming towards you.
Back to computers and the little Irish gentleman. Maddie is getting into the swing.
Do you enjoy it today?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's quite addictive when you do actually hit it, even if that's not so often at the moment. But yeah, absolutely, it's a really great feeling, and it is interesting as well how when focus on everything that you've been told, you can feel when you're gone to do the shot and your mind's slightly gone off somewhere else and you miss it, and you can feel when on those occasions you do manage to get everything together at once. It's a great feeling, and you can really tell the difference between that and when you're not doing what you're told, basically.
So you've got to go through it.
Nick is so convinced by his teaching methods, he's putting his money where his mouth is. If you feel you don't improve, he won't charge you for the lesson.
I mean, I could tell you a million stories about people coming here with an eye closed and pretty much, like I used to be, pretty much giving up. And I can pretty safely say, within 2 or 3 minutes, you see a grin come on their face. And after 10 minutes, you see them keep looking at you and carry on shooting. And after half an hour, they've completely forgotten about how they used to do it. And they've moved on.
So you can teach an old dog new tricks?
Oh. Easy. Within minutes, but I've got to make it last an hour. Okay, right.
For more information, go to pennsports.co.uk. And for more information about the Beretta range, including the new Grade 1 690 and the Victoria Ladies Gun Line, go to gmk.co.uk. Well, that was interesting. Please let us know your thoughts, especially if you've only got one eye. Now, from talking and shooting straight to someone who just talks, it's David with the Fieldsports Channel News Stump.
This is Fieldsports Channel News. It looks like the World Wildlife Fund in Denmark has gone freelance. The WWF supports legal hunting, but its Danish office recently made anti-hunting statements to coincide with the Danish film Safari, which is critical of big game hunting in Africa. This film shows Jens Hoeg, who is a regular guest on Fieldsports Channel, defending hunting on Danish national TV. In a major crackdown, thousands of poachers have been nicked in Tanzania. The Ministry of Natural Resources and Tourism reports that 3,185 poachers have been caught in the act, with more than 1,500 appearing in court in the last 12 months. The Tanzania Wildlife Authority has seized 270 guns and more than 1,000 rounds of ammunition. Roy Lupton will be taking to the stage at the Game Fair Theatre. Roy is putting his sword-swallowing act and the flea circus to one side and will be on stage at the Game Fair on Friday the 28th of July, talking about the film we made with him where the eagle catches the hare and we hitch a ride on the back of the eagle. He will also be talking about the wider issue of lead in the environment and birds of prey. For more about the Game Fair, go to thegamefair.org.uk. Hunters are leading the charge against oil developers in Canada. A group of Native Americans called the Blueberry Nation has the hunting rights over 3,800 kilometres of British Columbia. It has launched a series of legal bids to stop oil and gas development on their land. Greek Cyprus is trying to change the law in favour of hunting. It wants to relax existing laws and downgrade offences from a court appearance to an on-the-spot fine. Cyprus has a history of hunting going back centuries, but in recent years has become the focus of anti-hunters. Since BBC presenter and animal rights campaigner Chris Packham lost his battle to ban hunting on Malta, he has hopped islands to Cyprus to try his luck there. And finally, what has caused the political crisis underway in the Gulf? It turns out that it was a falconry trip. Iranians kidnapped a 26-strong hunting party in Iran, made up of members of the Qatari royal family. Qatar's Arab neighbours are now furious that the country paid up to $1 billion in ransom money to Iranian terrorists to free the hunters. You are now up to date with Fieldsports Channel News. Stalking the stories, fishing for facts.
Thank you, David. Now, when Peter Wilson won gold at the London 2012 Olympics, little did he know that 5 years later his own shooting governing body would try and destroy his sport.
The International Shooting Sports Federation govern double trap, trap and skeet, the three shotgun Olympic disciplines, and more recently the ISSF have chosen to remove double trap. The International Olympic Committee produced a report called Gender 2020 in order to try and have parity going into the Games in Tokyo, which is a great thing, but unfortunately has put pressure on all sports that are slightly skewed, and in shooting's case, or more particularly shotgun, double trap is the only male discipline. It has meant that we've been put under extreme pressure to try and change. Now, my argument would always be, and continues to be, that why not allow men and women to compete side by side against one another in an open category? But that seems to have fallen on deaf ears, and instead they have chosen to remove double trap in favour of a mixed trap team, which sadly no one likes. In 1992, famous Shang Jiang from China beat the men, and in fact, as a result, the ISSF separated men and women, which, looking back on it, is a crying shame, because we could have been seen as one of the most progressive sports out there, certainly within the Olympic calendar. Only the equestrian sports allow men and women to compete side by side, and when you bear in mind that women are perfectly capable of beating men in shooting, maybe not in other sports such as the 100 metres, but certainly with shooting we can be seen as a very progressive sport. 3 days ago I got beaten by a chap in a wheelchair. And it just proves that anyone and everyone can compete at any level, and for that reason we should all be able to compete. It's an Oscar Pistorius story, where people were up in arms and both overjoyed that he was able to compete with able-bodied competitors. In this instance, shooting has the most amazing opportunity, and I really feel as though it's wasted it. Double trap could have been the guinea pig. It could have been the discipline where men and women, people with or without disabilities, could have competed side by side on the shooting range.
There are other threats to shooting sports. Olympic biathlon has swapped its tutu rimfires for lasers, for example. And to the ISSF's credit, it refused to allow other gun sports to swap to lasers.
It's a concern, it's a problem, and it will be a threat that's on our door for a long, long time, unless, of course, we can be proactive in other areas like gender and other things. So it's a big, big worry. I can't play down the fact that it keeps me awake at night, but for the time being, I feel powerless against it. So there's an EGA, an Extraordinary General Assembly, that's been called by all the federations because they aren't happy with the ISSF's recommendation to the IOC about double trap, prone and a 50-metre pistol. These are the disciplines that are going to be removed in favour of mixed team, which, as I said before, no one likes. So we're in this sort of bizarre catch-22. The ISSF think they're doing right by the federations and athletes, and yet the athletes and federations don't like what they're being put forward.
Thank you, Pete. Of course, it may be too late for double trap. We'll find out more after the EGA on the 25th of June in Munich. And there is more from Pete in this month's clay sports. We have all the action from the FITASC European Championships in Lulworth, and we accompany George Digweed on a charity clay day at EJ Churchill and find out what Rob Fennick has planned for the Worlds. It's all in this month's clay sports. Click on the link on the screen to watch it. Back to Fieldsports Britain, and Gilly Nickols is asking her Labradors to stand and deliver.
Delivery of a dummy, a pheasant, a partridge, a grouse, a rabbit, a hare, a goose, whatever your dog has retrieved, is one of those areas where it's very easy just to get by, to make do. And you frequently see on shoots people scrabbling on the ground when their dog comes back to them because the dog has either put the retrieve down or is dropping its head. And actually, if you're the person shooting, that's quite difficult because you've got a gun over your arm and you're bending down and potentially the barrels are going into the mud and you really don't want it. So one of the things I'm really particular about is teaching my dogs a very good delivery. I want the dog to come nice and fast into me. When I'm teaching him, I want him to sit in front of me, hold his head up, and wait for me to put my hands onto the retrieve, and then on a clear command, let go of it. Now, Labradors are natural retrievers. They're not necessarily natural deliverers, and one of the problems is that when a dog has done a good and exciting piece of work for him, he tends to think that what he's retrieved is his, and you have to be really quite careful as to how you take it away and how you reward the dog. And I think if you work hard in your training, and you do that training initially on dummies and then carry it through to the start of the shooting season, then you have a dog with a really good delivery that you can be proud of, and it just makes your life easier as well as looking a bit smarter. So I'm very particular. I spend a bit of time just sitting the dog, calling it into me with no retrieve, and it will sit in front of me. Then I'll sit the dog up, very carefully place the dummy in its mouth, reward it, praise it for holding the dummy, walk away from it, call it into me, then send the dog for a simple retrieve, and again just keep paying attention to the real niceties of it. Make sure the dog's coming in absolutely square to me, and if he's not, move back a couple of steps. I tend to stand a little bit like Donald Duck with my feet slightly apart and my hands slightly out at the side, just to funnel the dog into me. And if you can really work on that initially as a specific exercise, but then incorporate it into all your retrieving, you'll have a dog with a really nice delivery, and you'll look good, you'll look smart.
Thank you, Gilly. Now from the south of England to the wider world of hunting and shooting on YouTube, it is Hunting YouTube. This is Hunting YouTube, which aims to show the best hunting and shooting videos that YouTube has to offer. A film from last season just out, grouse shooting at Swinton Park, is Jonathan McGee's new episode. He follows a team of guns for a driven day on North Yorkshire's Swinton estate. Moving from the north of England to the west of Germany, more pretty photography in Bockjagd in der Eifel, as Hunting Room is after an ageing six-pointer and an abnormal buck with, as he says, abundant Weidmannsheils. Next, to the south of France for a compilation of top shots from Bisson de la Salon's driven hunting season 2016 and 2017. 260 Rips doesn't often do a roomy film, and here is one. Rabbiting with the 22LR has him out with his CZ 452, and being 260 Rips, his ballistic app. More rabbits, Johnny from Point of Impact TV gets in touch about his latest quiet pest control, another CZ 452 outing, and to keep it nicely hushed at short ranges, a BSA Ultra SC air rifle in 2.2. The Southern Hemisphere has the best of the hunting seasons at the moment, but this hunt by big game hunting New Zealand in the Kaimanawa ranges nearly turns into a disaster after they get their Seeker stag. NZ Wild Things cuts out the long walk by taking a chopper into the chamois for what he calls speed hunting. It's an overnight backpack mission. And finally, all for £20 of pork. Clay Tall Stories makes his usual well put together 25-minute song and dance about a hunt for, this time, a small pig that ends up in Japanese cookery, and the best place for it. That's it for this week. I have put all these films into a playlist for you. Click on the link or check this film's description. If you have a YouTube film you would like us to pop into the weekly top 8, email me the link, charlie@fieldsportschannel.tv. Well, that's it for this week. If you haven't done so already, please pop over to our website, fieldsportschannel.tv. You can click to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to us on YouTube, or pop your email address into our register page, and we'll contact you about this show and our other shows. This show, Field Sports Britain, it's at 7 PM UK time every Wednesday, and this has been Field Sports Britain. Good hunting, good shooting, good fishing, and goodbye.